I'm Lauren, compulsive eater. Weigh, measure 3 meals a day off the gray sheet, turn them over my sponsor. And I don't eat anything between, and abstinence is my floor. It is the single most important thing in my life without exception. And if that's all I do all day, although my head will tell me I should be doing more, but if that's all I do today, that is enough. And my abstinent day is March 16th, 2000, oh wow, 2004. And I have to say, the addiction model works, this program perfectly, fits what I have. If I can put something in my mouth, usually sugar, flour, carb, whatever, it will set up a craving that is so intense that I can maybe knuckle through it. I eventually won't be able to. And also, there's a mental obsession part that will go and go and go around my food. I had the experience where I live in the greater Boston area. At one point, I was living in Cambridge, and I was walking to my home, and there was this little store across the way, and it had like a sign out in front of it, kind of perpendicular, and it had like written like snacks and some other things. My eyes were already on it, and somewhere in there before I was cognitively aware, you know, clear. Something in me is driven and is obsessed with food. And that for me, that spiritual solution, and for me, and I love it. It's very clear. It has nothing to do with religion. You can believe in anything. You can be an atheist. You can be agnostic. Just know that I am powerless over food, and something greater than me has to help me do this, and I need the fellowship. I need all of you, because I cannot do this in isolation. And just a little bit where I'm coming from, how I got here, and what it's like now. I'm coming from, a lot of people, I've heard them say, oh, I started compulsive eating at 13, out of the womb, because my earliest memories are around food. I mean, and I'm going to be turning 70 next week. And the thing that flips me out is cognitively kind of eroding. I keep on telling my friend, there's something really wrong. And she goes, just your age. And I said, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean you're not being followed. You're going to find out that I really have a cognitive impairment that's worse than just age. Anyways, that's aside. But from my memories, there's a lot I don't remember about my childhood. It's either associated with a photo I've seen, but I can tell you certain food things crystal clear. And not only that, but my memories are very visual in my head, exactly where I was. And it's amazing, how I have such recall around that. That is not normal. People with no food addiction problems have that, I'm assuming. Anyway, so I grew up in Florida, pale and overweight in Florida. I used to say the stork dropped me in the wrong place. It was not pretty. I sunburned, I blotched, and being overweight. I had a good friend she was a tanner, and I feel like being overweight and tan looks a lot better than being pale and overweight. But the earliest memories, I live near a artificially made duck pond, and back then you fed scraps to ducks, and they wouldn't let me carry the bag because I would eat whatever it was. And the only way I knew that it wasn't food that humans ate was because we were giving the ducks, but otherwise it was palatable to me. It was stale. I mean, I drew the line at things that would have green and blue and, fungus growing on it, but I would probably brush it off and eat the rest of it. And it was like I had eating buddies along the way. And I had this one eating buddy. We'd go to her house after school, and we'd turn on the TV, watch soap operas, sit this close to the TV, and just start snacking. And one time she started wrapping up the sleeve of the stuff that we were eating. And all of a sudden my attention went like, why is she wrapping that up? I ate it till the sleeve was finished. I ate till the box was finished. I might not be able to finish because I felt sick, but I could wait a while and then I'd finish. And it's almost like I was probably 12, 13. That's when my eating stuff went underground, because it was like one by one, it seemed like whatever eating buddies I had dropped out. And I tried different ways. My mother, who weighed the same thing, very beautiful woman, weighed the same things more or less that she weighed at 16, would get me on diets. And I found at some point it was easier to not eat than the minute I put something in my mouth, all bets were off. I was never an anorexic. However, I had a period of, I call it my golden period of anorexia. I worked real hard. I was probably like 15 or 16. I exercised compulsively. I swam laps. If I was on the phone, I'd be doing leg lifts, waist twist, you know, white knuckling it. I would write in, like, I never, I always tried to keep a diary or a journal. I'd get maybe a couple of weeks and then it's, gathered dust. But I would write these things in it, psyching myself out about not eating certain foods, envisioning them with, wasn't very difficult to envision vermin living in, Florida. I mean, roaches, the state bug. And, I realized I did a behavior modification thing on me. And I would berate myself in the journal, like, if you eat this, I mean, if anybody saw that and mother was doing that to a child, DSS would have had him out in a second. So what happened was, and I have an alcohol problem too, that kind of went hand in hand, but food was, if I had alcohol in one hand and something to eat in the one hand and the taste wasn't very good together, alcohol's out the window. Who cares? It's food. And so when I went away to college, I was still trying to do that white knuckling thing. And it's like I took one by one, I took back those foods that I said I'd never eat. And they were all the sugar and flour foods. I remember so sick. Whatever, it's typical. Freshman year, you know, you live in a dorm and you have a food plan. Well, I heard people gain weight on the food plan, so I don't have a food plan. Well, what the heck am I eating? I knew every vending machine on that campus. Every time there'd be one of those, as my friend called it, roach coaches, the things that would pull up at a construction site selling food off of it. I knew where it was. It was amazing. It was uncanny how I found those things. But I still was trying to not eat anything. So I lived in a dorm, and the word got out somehow that round Italian thing, I wouldn't eat the inside of it, but I would eat the edges. People were bringing me their boxes with those things cut off. I didn't even know who they were, but I would eat them, pile it up. I lived in a college town, so everything was delivered. And last thing I want to say about and diets, constant dieting, doing different things, and a lot of self-hate. Oh my God. Well, I would joke and say when I was 12 or 13, I went into adolescence and I never came back. I now know it was depression and I never came out. And the and food was like the fuel, on the fire of self-hate and food addiction. And and one time it was, like I said, I went to school in a college town. It was way back when you could still kind of, hitch in safety. And we were hitching to the mall, hitchhiking. And Nabisco salesman picks us up and he's got all his products in the back seat, a floor, all of them. So as we're getting out, he says, take what you want. And I'm like, yeah. And my roommate who was with me, she like slapped him out of my hands. And she goes, the oldest adage, you don't take sugar from a stranger. And I'm thinking, it's not, it's in a box, it's sealed. I tell you, I can see exactly where we were in Gainesville, Florida, opportunity missed. Anyway, so fast forward, tons of diets. How I got to program. I was finally living up here in Boston. That was another thing. I thought, oh, when I come up to Boston, these Northerners are so much smarter than the Southerners. I'm going to find the thing that works. And I found this one thing called feeding ourselves. It was such a great idea. You're such to learn what you were humming for, as opposed to what attracted you. You know, you walk by someplace and you see something lovely to, you know, you want to binge on. That's attraction. But if you sat there and tried to think of what do I want? Something sweet, something salty, something this, and you ate it, didn't matter, you know, diet food or not, you'd be satiated. And I love that concept. It didn't work for me. Anyways, was in several groups that tried it. But and one thing I did learn, you're supposed to bring in your favorite food and eat it slowly and mindfully. First of all, it was tough to figure out my favorite food. Secondly, I learned I didn't like slow. I liked shoving it in. I liked the hunt. And anyway, so how I got to program, I was supposedly I finished grad school. I was supposed to be looking for a job because I was, and so I was actually sleeping on a friend's couch. Um, but basically, what I was doing was my first friend in life was getting married in the town I grew up in. I was going to be in the wedding. We're about to turn 30. I'm thinking, I'm a spinster and they're all going to come see me, not the bride. Anyways, I had to do a major diet to, you know, for this wedding. So I had to start in June to make up for the fact that I would break it and then I would have to do it again for this February wedding. And I went to weight loss clinic where you had to spend a lot of money, and I had no money. It was all credit cards. I mean, I was supposed to be looking for a job. I had to diet full time. I get to that wedding, I am thin. And actually, it started with my first drink. It was like, talk about a dragon unleashed. I could feel the seams on my little bridesmaid dress starting to split. I come back to Boston. I usually did not eat in front of things. Friend picked me up. First thing I said, let's go eat lunch. You know, I'd already eaten the whole way in. So I found, actually, I couldn't afford it, but my friend who I had went to a therapist, and her therapist said that she would take me for no money. Anyway, so this therapist, wonderful woman, and I'm telling her how much I hate myself and how much I eat and how fat I am. So I talked about the food, of course, you know, but I just thought it was just this awful person who ate like that. And she said, well, you know, I have a client that came to me one time and talked about this gray sheet anonymous thing. And she actually came back to me and said, you know, thank you, but I found a solution. So at the time, all it was like you called this number, it was an answering service, and it would ask you, you know, where you lived, and it would have a meeting list and it'd tell you where to go. And I remember this my therapist told me about that this client she had would go to these orange sheet meetings. So I hear this thing about an orange sheet. So this poor answering service person who knows nothing about, you know, the subject matter, I keep on screaming at her and going, well, is this an orange sheet meeting? Anyways, long story again, short, I get to meeting. If I had gotten abstinent then, I would have had the biggest high, because walking into those rooms, hearing people did what I did, eating out of trash cans, you know, getting up in the middle of the night, putting on your bathrobe, going drive-ins, you know, saying, you know, poor drive-in person didn't care, but you're saying, I'm having a big party, and you order a lot and then one Diet Coke, you know, they did exactly what I did. Blew me away. It was amazing. And I thought, well, when I'm ready, this will work. This is 1983. I come into OA, tried it every which way, knew about GreySheet because I was in the Boston area, thought, hell no, not doing that. And I had a friend in OA that had a really good friend in GreySheet who's still here in GreySheet. And she would tell me about that friend. I'm thinking, why would she do that? You know, weigh measuring restaurants. Why wouldn't she be in OA? P.S. I ain't getting abstinent. I am doing like little treatment weekends. Horrible. So give here we go all the way up to 2001. We're talking 1983 to 2001. The only little period of abstinence I had, there were a lot of there was like a horde of a group from GreySheet kind of came over to OA at one point because, you know, they wanted to eat grains. Anyways, I had one of those tough love sponsors, and she basically had me GreySheet in the very beginning, but then we started adding things on and I lost it. So one by one, friends of mine who were failing in OA were going to GreySheeters. And and it was like, okay, life is over. I hate vegetables. I guess I have to go to GreySheet. And I remember one of the friends, good friends, was just slapping that GreySheet in front of me. And I said, you can slap it in front of me all you want. If I'm not willing, I ain't doing it. And that's when I actually learned that in OA, the difference between ready, because somebody told me I was never ready to let go of the food. I got willing. Amazing. I got abstinent. And this was 2002. Why my abstinent days from 2004 is I never learned the GreySheet way, that when I had a problem or like somebody took my food, and this happened more than once, happened twice, I make a call. I didn't. And this was not one incident. I had already had some weird slippery things. The last incident, a friend had 3 raws that I had cut up at work, and somebody took one of them from me. And I just, I make a call. They would have said, weigh out 8 ounces. I went back to day one. Amazing. I did not run to Costco, and, do whatever I could do. I just wanted to be abstinent. So I was abstinent ever since. And it has been the easier, softer way for this person. I learned how to eat in restaurants, weighing, measuring. People taught me. I've traveled. I've gone to New Zealand. I've gone to Africa. I've gone to the South Pole. um, I've gone to New Hampshire. People in this program have told me how to do it. No matter what. So my husband died suddenly. I didn't eat. My father died suddenly. I didn't eat. I lost my job. I didn't eat. I got my job back. I didn't want it. I didn't eat. But the thing is, it's the big things I can get through. It's the everyday, day to day, broken hangnail. That's the thing, to learn life on life's terms, to not eat in the mundane. I remember this is a long time ago. This woman I worked with took me to this workshop, and what it was about is there was a person there that channeled a spirit who would talk to you. Who knows if it was true or not? Anyways, it was amusing. So the spirit, Viwamesh, was talking about being present and, staying present, something about it. And I thought, I don't like present. It's boring. I like, drama. I like that. That's what I've had to learn. And it started with the food. And then I became teachable. I've done AWOLs. I've done other spiritual things. It's about learning how to live life on life's terms for me. I learned that I want you to act differently so I feel better. Doesn't work that way, although I've tried to get you to act better. All I know is I don't want to eat today. There's something in me that's still alive that says, eat. I don't feel it, but sometimes I do. But I've had friends in program that somehow, whatever, evaporated. They don't have this problem. All I need to do is walk into some place, see, the little twinkly things, and there's something in me that still says, but it doesn't drive me. It doesn't even bother me, but I know it's there. I know it's there. I can have my wonderful meal, and as it starts getting halfway finished, I can feel that I'm mourning it's lost. That's rare nowadays. Um, I want to grow up, and thanks, Joel. And seeing that I'm probably going to lose my cognitive mind, and a lot of that's from my mother. God, being present for that woman as she died, unbelievable. This narcissist that I learned to love because I was abstinent, and a lot of things. I'm just grateful for you to be here. I will end with this, that I just don't want to eat today. I need your help. I'm still wired to eat. It's so interesting that these pills are out here now. That's all I ever wanted. But this is, and as my friend pointed out to me, this program is more to me than just not eating. It has been a springboard to spirituality that I really value. And and just growing up. You know, I take a pill, I get thin. Big deal. That's it. Thanks.